Welcome back to the MMA Training Bible's Guide to Building Unstoppable Endurance in 4 months. I'm Dr. Jason Gillis. In the first half of this course, we learned all about the science of MMA, and in the second half, we've been applying that science to design an individualized and periodized training plan that's going to enhance your endurance. And so far, we've been working together to plan the big training phases across your fight plan. We forecasted training volume and intensity. We planned the individual training subphases and weeks and the training difficulty. And now, in this session, session 10, we're going to program individual training sessions. What I want to focus on, and really the goal, is teaching you how to program individual training sessions across your entire fight plan. So first, we're going to start off with a little recap, make sure we're on the same page with the training plan that we've been working through, and then we're going to talk about programming training sessions across all of the all aspects, all big phases of the fight plan. And again, we're also going to talk about the recovery weeks, the warm-ups, and the cool-downs. So let's recap quickly. You should have something that looks like this, whereby you've scheduled your fight along with your big training phases, along with training volume and intensity, and you've also scheduled your sub phases and your training weeks and the training difficulty across them. So the next thing that we want to do is schedule in the days that you're actually going to train. So this is totally up to you. I can't tell you when you should be training. I can't tell you that you should be training on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I can't tell you that you should train twice a day every day. It's up to you to determine. But I will tell you that you need to start progressive. If you're not training at all right now, then it would be unrealistic for you to jump to 4 days a week, 3 days a week even in some cases. You want to be very progressive. Probably adding one training session a week is somewhere reasonable, because you need time to recover from those training sessions. And that's really the golden rule. If you're looking for a very informal rule, then you should abide by this one. If you're sore, then you probably shouldn't train. Maybe you need a little bit more recovery. So when we're planning our training days, it's up to you to determine. In general though, I would only suggest that you plan 2 weeks at most in advance. So for the next 2 weeks, you probably should be planning what you're going to do when you're going to train. But beyond that, it's pretty difficult. You know, our schedules can get a little crazy. You never know what comes up. So if you start scheduling in your training beyond a month, then things can happen, things can fall apart, and it can easily set you up for frustration. So my recommendation, just plan the next 2 weeks of training, and that's enough. The other thing that you do in this step is you schedule the days when you're going to engage in the MMA Training Bible's testing battery, and that should be about every 6 to 12 weeks or so. And this testing battery, again, it helps to make sure that you're not overtraining, and maybe that you're not undertraining as well. It shows your adaptation to training over time. And again, I've gone ahead and I've scheduled this in already, so we can have a look here. So in this particular case, this fighter is able to train 5 days a week. So they're training on the Monday, taking Tuesday off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday training, and then taking Sunday off. I don't know if this schedule works for you. If you're only training right now and for the past couple months only like once or twice a week, then again, I'm going to make you really question whether you should be doing this, because it takes time to build up the aerobic fitness and general strength that you need to protect yourself and be effective in a fight. So here's an example. This fighter, they're going to be starting at a low level of intensity here, and you can see the days. The first day is going to be a little bit hard. It's going to be around medium, and then it settles back down to low. The next week, you see that you're going to have 2 more difficult training days, followed by a recovery day, and then a build-up day. But notice that after you have these difficult days, then you're allowing a day off. So it's almost like you're periodizing across the week as well. So you're hitting yourself hard, giving yourself that recovery, building up, hitting yourself hard, giving the recovery, and then training, and then recovering. It's important that you build in that into your daily schedule as well as your weekly schedule. So I can't tell you again how you should be identifying the days that you're going to train, but I should tell you that you should be following the general pattern of this line. So this week you'd expect to see maybe 3 days that are going to be up here, and then maybe the other days you're going to be a little bit lower. But you're trying to increase the difficulty from 1 week to the next, and then you're taking a recovery week. So you should be training at a very low level of difficulty this week, and then you slowly build up here. And I want to give you a little example in a second about what this looks like. But the final thing I want to touch on before I go on to that is you should be scheduling in your MMA Training Bible testing dates. And if you have access to a scientific lab or maybe a local university, then go there and say, hey, how much does it cost to get a VO2 max test? And you can maybe do that because that'll get you some good results to see how your aerobic fitness is changing over time. But there's a whole bunch of tests that the MMA Training Bible has. It has psychological assessments, it has flexibility assessments, a whole bunch of them. And what you want to do is just schedule those in every 6 to 12 weeks. So you see here I've scheduled the first one in the first day, and then hit you again at the end of the second subphase after in the 9th training week. And you can see, I think we fit in another one. Yeah, we fit in another one at the end of the transition, right before the next fight plan. So as promised, I want to give you an example of what it might look like over the course of a whole fight plan. And the thing you're going to notice is you're being progressive here. You're just generally following the outline that you've drawn. And one of the big things that I want you to notice is it works well here. You see you're getting a very high level of training difficulty, and then you take a day off. Build up, and then you have a high level, and then day off. Hit yourself with a high level again, very high level again, day off. So I think that's a very effective format that I recommend that all the fighters take. And then when you get to maybe very high levels of training, you could have 2 back-to-back days of high level intensity, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it because you do need those days off. You know how you feel after you've had a really, really hard session. It can kill your motivation if you have to go back. You just feel dead. So I recommend that you build in these rest days immediately after you have these hard sessions. And I'm not sure if your gym will allow you to do this, but maybe you need to set up your schedule around your gym training time when you're focusing on your MMA skills. And you can continue to see what happens. We're following those lines that we've drawn for training difficulty on a weekly level and just matching it with training difficulty on a daily level. And again, I can't tell you when you should do this. It's up to you to identify when you can train. So let's go back to the PowerPoint, and you've seen this slide before. You've seen it in part 1. In mixed martial arts, the best way to develop endurance is in this pyramid fashion. You spend most of your time focusing on aerobic oxidation. I hope that's clear because that's really one of the most important energy systems in mixed martial arts is aerobic oxidation, the aerobic energy systems. And this is what's focused on in the general preparatory phase. So notice that you're not getting this in this training camp, or in this fight plan, the 4-month fight plan. Notice that you're starting focusing on aerobic glycolysis in the fight-specific preparation phase and anaerobic glycolysis. So you will focus on some of the aerobic energy systems in this 4-month fight-specific prep, but this is really where a lot of your gains are going to be made. So I'm assuming that you've already sufficiently developed your aerobic energy systems that you can focus and jump right in on aerobic glycolysis type workouts when you start this. And then we continue to build from the fight-specific preparatory phase to the fight camp, where we're focusing on the ATP PCR system. So these are your training objectives for the 4-month plan. And what I want to do is I want to show you how we schedule those in. So we're going to go back to the Excel document. So if we start down here, we're looking at the beginning of your training plan, which should be starting this week or next week. You're going to be focusing for the first subphase on aerobic glycolytic energy systems. And as you get into the end of the fight-specific prep, as you move into the next month, you're going to be focusing on anaerobic glycolytic energy systems, and then muscle buffering. That's other factors that can influence your performance in the cage. And then we move through here, you get into the fight camp, and we're going to be focusing on the ATP PCR system and again muscle buffering as well. And by the time we get into the end of the fight camp and the taper, we're not expecting to see any physiological adaptations during the fight from the training that happens in the last couple weeks before the fight. So we're calling it a maintenance period. We want to maintain our performance. We don't want to see any decrements in our performance. And we want all of the previous training to hopefully bring about physiological adaptations that present for our fight. So that's why we're calling it a maintenance period. And then in the transition, we're going to be focusing on recovery type workouts. So go ahead and slot those in that order. This is how we periodize for endurance in the 4-month plan. Aerobic glycolytic anaerobic glycolytic, muscle buffering, ATP PCR system, muscle buffering, and then transitions into maintenance, and then finally recovery. So make sure that you scribble that down, and we'll move into the next step. This is when we actually plan your endurance training sessions, and this is pretty easy. So I'm going to click over here, and you can see I've added some workouts here. Now the question is, how do you know what workouts to add? And I just want to give you a little reminder about that. Okay, so if you go back, then you're going to see this slide, and what it does is it identifies the different types of workouts that you can choose. So if you're in the 4-month plan, then you're not going to be choosing any of these workouts, so we're going to move by that. If you're in the fight specific phase and you're in the early phase, then you can choose workouts like this, 6 to 12 times, 2 minutes on, 45 minutes off, build up. And as you start to move through the fight specific phase, then you can start to incorporate more workouts like this, 6 to 12 times, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off with a 1 minute build up, early to mid. And as you're moving more through, then you're going to start to focus on anaerobic glycolysis, as we already mentioned, and these are the types of workouts that you can include. So you're progressing always from top to bottom here, and then after you get through the fight specific phase, and you can incorporate this whenever you like, but I think most gyms are going to have something like this that they do maybe on the weekend when the whole fight team gets together. You may have your own little fighter's drill. It used to be like that at my old gym anyway. So if not, incorporate it. As you move through the fight specific phase and you get into the fight camp, and here are the workouts that you do during the early, mid, and then late fight camp. And again, you're starting from the top going to the bottom. Here are some examples, just slot them in as you like. And here are the metabolic target. The ATP PCR system is the general trend here, and there are some buffering workouts in here as well. So it's easy, just follow these templates. And then in the fight camp the last 2 weeks, it's all about maintenance, remember? So here are some workouts. Again, you can start these in the mid to mid-late. And you could, even if you want to, do this in the early if you have a lot of fatigue. But in general, try to keep these to the last 2 weeks of the fight camp, and here are your examples. And again, you can include the fighter's drill if you want. And then when you get in the taper, then it's again always about maintenance and maintaining high intensity and building on a lot of rest. So the rest interval here, as I mentioned before, is going to be very, very, very high. So you're maintaining high intensity efforts for 30 seconds, 20 seconds, taking a lot of rest. So that should help those physiological adaptations be preserved and the anaerobic ones perhaps increase. And it should help fatigue dissipate by taking a lot of the rest. And you may consider using the fighter's drill here, but I don't recommend it because it's a pretty high intensity thing. And then you get into the transition, and you can see these types of workouts are going to be low intensity, unstructured generally, and more structured as you go through your training plan and you get to the next fight plan. Here are your recovery workouts that you're going to put in during your recovery week, so feel free to just jump in on those and fit them in as you like. And then warm-ups, again, if you don't remember, I suggest certain warm-ups before certain energy systems. So if you're engaging in a type of whole body aerobic workout, then just do this warm-up. If you're engaging in any anaerobic glycolytic workout, then do this warm-up. Then if you're engaging in ATP PCR system exercises, then do this one here. And then you have cool downs. The last thing I wanted to mention is you can follow this example here. So let's give you a little example. And again, your fight plan shouldn't really look like this because you really should only be programming the difficulty about 2 weeks out. And so the rest of it's going to be blank. But you could have this line drawn. Or you can include the daily in if you like. It's up to you. And the next thing you're going to do is you're just going to slot in these workouts. So here, this particular fighter, the first workout they do, it's going to be this one here. 5 to 6 times, 2 minutes on, 7 minutes off with a 1 minute build up. And they're going to be doing running or some other whole body activity. The next workout, it's going to be 5 to 6 times, 2 minutes on, 7 minutes off, 1 minute build up. And it could be a specific MMA activity as opposed to just running. And then that's it for that week for endurance. The rest are going to be other types of workouts. And then we get in here for the next week, give you some more examples, 8 to 10 times, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. And then this is going to be the fight simulation activity, the fighter's drill. And then here for the next 2 weeks, or for the final workout in the 2 minute block, 6 to 8 times, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. So you're pretty free to choose any of those workouts that slot in here in the appropriate fashion. If you want an example, then we can scroll through here. So I've filled it out entirely. So just to show you how things change over the course of the fight plan, we showed you these. Let's show you what a workout looks like maybe near the end of the fight specific phase here. So we've gotten down to focusing on anaerobic glycolytic, so 7 to 8 times, 60 seconds on, 4 minutes off, 1 minute build up. We get into the fight specific phase. Let's focus here. We get into the fight camp. We're looking at 4 to 8 times, 30 seconds on, 2 minutes off, 1 minute build up. Let's have a look at the next week. 4 to 5 times, 5 minutes on, 1 minute off. This is the fighter's drill. Another workout here. 7 to 10 times, 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off, 30 seconds build up. Ideally, you should be using fight-specific movements here with the appropriate movement pattern to bring about the appropriate power output. And then we can continue to move through here. Let's show you what a maintenance workout might look like. So 15 times, 5 seconds on, 1 minute off with 15-second build-up. Ideally, MMA-specific movements. And over here, 7 to 10 times, 30 seconds on, 5 minutes off, 4 minutes build-up. So it's a nice slow jog. And then we get into here for the taper. Let's have a look to see what some of these, that's actually the fighter's drill. You can include that if you want, but it's not always recommended. Depending upon how, if you feel very fresh, you might include one of those. And then we've got, let's scroll over here. And then we've got this workout. This is a good example of a taper workout. 4 to 5 times, 20 seconds on, 10 minutes off with 4 minute building up. So that 4 minutes, it's pretty important. It serves as almost like your little warm up for your 20-second sprint. And then again, 15 times, 5 seconds on, 1 minute off. So it's a good high intensity workout there. And then we get into your transitions. Scroll over here. It's going to be largely unstructured activity at the beginning of the transition, and then a little bit more structure and activity at the end of the transition there, as you can see. 4 to 6 times, 5 minutes on, 2 minutes off. So that gives you a little idea of what your fight plan what your fight plan looks like. But bear in mind, I do only want you guys programming for the first 2 weeks. So when you get to here, then you'll program for these next 2 weeks. I wouldn't expect you to program all these workouts because you never know what can happen. So don't waste your time planning your whole fight schedule out. Okay, let's summarize what we've covered here. You should feel comfortable programming workouts across all aspects of the fight plan. That includes the fight-specific prep phase, the fight camp, the taper, and the transition. And of course, this includes recovery weeks, warm-ups, and cool-downs. Now, I know this can be a little bit confusing, so what I've done to try to make things easier on you is I've taken all of the workouts that we've talked about, I've categorized them according to the phase that they should fall in, whether it's early, mid, or late, or whether it's the taper, the transition, or whatever. All of them. I've taken them and put them in a document, a PDF. I've uploaded it, and you should be able to download that document in the download section. So you can download it, print it off, and use that as a quick reference guide when you're programming across your fight plan. So I hope that makes it easier for you. Also, this Excel example that I've been working through, I've taken that document in its entirety, and I've also uploaded that. So you should be able to download that and use it as an example. But remember, it's just an example. The whole point of undergoing these last 10 sessions was to understand the principles so you can program your very own individualized training plan that's going to enhance your performance, not someone else's performance. So that's it for me in the MMA Training Bible. I hope that you learned something and drew a distinction or two, but remember, you can keep on coming back to this stuff over and over and over again. There's a lot of different courses offered by the MMA Training Bible, so I look forward to working with you again in the future. But until then, take care.